Hello everyone, welcome back to the series. And today we are going to practice verbal ability. In the last session, we have discussed para summary and para jumbles as well. Please do check out that video if you haven't already. And in this session, we'll be covering para completion and odd one out. So let's start. First, giving you a very little brief about the exam pattern. So, as you all know, verbal ability it consists of both MCQ and data-based questions. There are a total of 8 questions, and they are divided into para jumbles, para summary, odd one out, and some sentence correction or completion. So, as you all know, para jumbles is rearranging the jumbled sentence into a coherent paragraph. You have to identify the logical connections between the sentences, and I have given a lot of approaches to solve para jumbles in the previous video. You can just refer that. Summary is where you have to summarize the given paragraph in the most concise form. And here, POE, that is point of elimination, is very commonly used. Today we are going to discuss odd one out, sentence that doesn't fit within a given set of sentences, and sentence completion or correction kind of questions. So, what are the tips to solve odd one out? Let's discuss that. First one is you identify the theme or a common thread. First, what you do is you read all the sentences, ask what is the central subject, what the author wants to convey, what is the main theme. Are they talking about philosophy of science, climate change, some economic policy? What exactly are they trying to talk about? So understand the central idea, the main idea, the theme of the theme of the sentences. The odd one usually shifts subject or level of abstraction. So it completely talks about a different domain or maybe a similar kind of domain, related domain, but then it goes to a different level of abstraction. So you need to identify if there is a shift in the subject in any of the sentences that are being presented to you. Then you have to look for the flow and sequence. Most of the CAT odd one out questions, they are hidden para jumbles with one intruder. If you see, there will be pairs for few sentences. They'll be very much aligned. You can actually form a para jumble. There will be a coherent paragraph, and then there will be one intruder that does not fit into that sequence. Right? You have to identify that. You have to look for that flow. Arrange the sentences roughly. Maybe use some technique that I have taught in the previous class. One of them here elaborated is this one. Introduction, elaborations, example, conclusion. Try to arrange the sentences in such sequences. Maybe cause, effect, anything as such. And then odd one out, you can identify something that cannot fit the chain. All right. Now let's see the other tips. Check for pronoun or noun anchors. Sentences with this, such, these, they usually need an antecedent. If there is no antecedent, then that can be a potential odd one out, right? So always see if the nouns or noun anchors or the pronouns, do they have the right antecedent? And also don't be confused with choosing the antecedent. You have to check if they are making sense or not, right? Tone and scope test. If three sentences are analytical or abstract, and one sentence suddenly gives the concrete and anecdote, that's the odd one. So if three sentences are analytical, so the fourth one is giving you some different kind of tone, then that can be your odd one out. If three sentences are talking about modern AI, one is talking about 19th century machines, obviously that's the odd one out. That's the wrong scope. They are not related to each other. So that you pick. Then there is elimination trick, very commonly used even in RC, even in parajumbles. You have to know what point of elimination is. Instead of hunting the right choice, you eliminate the rest. Instead of hunting for the odd one directly, try making a para with the three that best fit. The leftover one will be your odd one out. All right. So instead of choosing the right answer, just try to identify the reasons to eliminate the others. That way you can do a lot better. All right. Then let's solve the questions. Anthropologists studying prehistorical cave art suggest that symbols were less about aesthetics and more about transmitting survival knowledge. The intricate engravings on Paleolithic tools reveal not only utility but also beginnings of symbolic thought. Neurological studies show that repetitive artistic activities activate brain regions linked to memory consolidation. The use of pigments in ritual burials indicate that early human valued symbolic meaning beyond immediate survival. All right. So now let's see the uh, coherent flow of it. First, we are talking about anthropologists studying prehistoric cave art. They suggest that symbols were less about aesthetics and they were about transferring the knowledge between oneself. That is the main idea of the first sentence. Second sentence, what it is saying, the intricate engravings on so and so tools reveal not only the utility but also beginning of the symbolic thought. It is explaining that one of the cave art. All right, they are talking about the how that engravings were used. Then neurological study shows that repetitive artistic activities activate brain regions linked to memory consolidation. Here we are not talking about prehistoric cave art. Here we are not talking about how symbols help in transmit survival knowledge. So we'll just keep this one in our radar. The use of pigments in ritual burials indicate that early humans valued symbolic meaning beyond the immediate survival. So beyond immediate survival, they actually valued that symbolic meaning, right? So A, B, D, they talk about symbolic thoughts. They talk about prehistoric humans. They talk about art, tools, rituals, right? But C, it talks about the modern neurological studies on brain. It feels in a different time frame, in a different domain. See, it shifts to neuroscience today instead of anything that was prehistoric evidence. So the time frame is different, the domain is different, and hence C is your odd one out. This is how you pick. Next, the emergence of cryptocurrencies reflect distrust in centralized financial institutions and the desire for decentralized alternatives. All right, we are talking about emergence of cryptocurrencies, what they reflect, and what they desire for. They desire for decentralized alternatives. Blockchain technology, which underpins cryptocurrency, is also being adopted in areas like supply chain management and digital identity. It is talking about again blockchain technology, which is underpinning the cryptocurrency. Okay, several governments are experimenting with central bank digital currencies to strengthen monetary control. The 2008 financial crisis, which triggered widespread bank collapses, exposed vulnerabilities in traditional monetary systems. Inventories in speculative assets often ignore fundamental and economic conditions, leading to repeated financial bubbles. All right, here A is talking about cryptocurrencies, decentralized alternatives. B is again blockchain technology, digital identity. C is again digital currency. D is saying that what triggered the widespread bank collapse and exposed the vulnerabilities in traditional modern monetary systems. So traditional monetary systems को हटाना है ये discuss हुआ है. D is talking about that. E is talking about investors and speculative assets often ignore fundamental economic conditions leading to financial bubbles. यहाँ पे E might sound connected because again crypto is speculative, but unlike the others, it is not anchored to digital monetary tech or the shift to the decentralized alternatives or why we are now emerging to cryptocurrencies as such. He is talking about speculation and bubbles in general, but it does not tie specifically to digital systems, and hence E is the answer. Philosophers of science argue that progress often comes not from consensus but from persistent theoretical disagreements. The Copernican evolution overturned centuries of geocentric consensus, reshaping astronomy and philosophy alike. Some scholars contend that disagreements in literature criticism produce confusion rather than constructive progress. Competing models in physics, such as string theory and loop quantum gravity, illustrate how rival frameworks coexist for decades. Cohen's idea of paradigm shifts emphasizes that crisis in consensus are prerequisites for scientific revolutions. Here we are talking about science, disagreement in paradigm shifts. Again, E you can see it is talking about the consensus. A is again talking about that, progress not come philosophers of science arguing that it does not come from consensus, but actually it comes from persistent theoretical disagreements. And then B is also talking about, geocentric this one consensus, and D is again talking about how rival frameworks can coexist. Now C is talking about literary criticism. It is not talking about science. It is talking about some scholars who are, having some kind of thought about it. C also talks about the disagreements. It looks familiar, but it belongs to humanities. It is not belonging to scientific revolution. And hence, C is your answer. Now, final tips to solve this. Look for outlier causality in many PYQs. Three sentences align on cause and effect reasoning. One gives a different cause effect logic. Or one breaks this chain, and even though the subject overlaps. So do that. If two sentences look odd, build the para with the rest. Instead of asking which one is odd, ask which one is making the coherent paragraph. Right? Don't fall for the too general sentence. In hard sets, the odd one is often not irrelevant but too generic. So don't, if that is not adding value to the paragraph, remove it. Final 20 seconds rule is that if you're stuck between two, just pick one that least helps the paragraph. All right. Paragraph progress. Now, para completion. Solve para completion. First, you need to identify the core theme and stance. Quickly summarize the main idea. Less author's tone, very critical. You have to identify the author's tone. Is it critical, supportive, analytical, cautionary, etc. The completion must continue in the same voice. You cannot shift the tone. Check logical progression time. Ask what naturally will come next. Common patterns. Conclusion. It summarizes or gives the final judgment. Implication. This means that it draws out of a consequence. Contrast. You'll see a however. It will be flipped in the argument. Recommendation. Suggest what should be done. Eliminate generic options. Cat loves to give an option that is true but too generic. Correct answers are anchored to the paragraph's theme. Wrong ones sound like extra gap. Be cautious of this. Don't test. If a passage is analytical, completion cannot be prescriptive. You have to understand that. If passage is critical, you cannot complete it by sounding some celebratory. Like, oh wow, something changed, massive change has happened. No, ऐसे नहीं होता. Scope match, be aware of scope creep. If the para is about Indian democracy, a completion about democracy across the world will usually misfit. So maybe scope अलग हो जाए, तो इसको भी हटा सकते हो. Avoid new ideas. Completion must connect back, not start a new discussion. Cat often gives an option that looks cool but introduces a new character or angle, which is wrong. Let's practice few questions now. AI is often portrayed as an existential threat to human jobs, yet history suggests that technological disruptions, while displacing some workers, eventually generate new industries and employment. The deeper challenge lies in how societies adapt to the transitions triggered by such shifts. Which one completes the paragraph? So it is saying that थोड़े workers displace होता है, but eventually नए industries बनती है, नया employment generate होता है. Deeper challenges lies in how we are triggered to such shift. Preparing for AI-driven disruptions thus require policies that focus on skill retaining and institutional adaptability. However, unlike past disruptions, AI might create more inequality by rewarding only a few with advanced skills. The consequences of AI therefore remain unpredictable despite optimistic and pessimistic projections. This means that fears about AI replacing humans are largely misplaced. Now, here see what we'll do is Para builds the argument that AI disruption is happening and the challenge of adaptation is key. Here, A extends it logically. It's talk about, uh, focusing on skill retaining and adaptability. It sounds fine. So we'll keep that into our mind that maybe this can be the answer. Then, however, unlike past disruptions, अभी टोन में मिसमैच हो रहा है तो बी हटा देंगे हम लोग सी क्या है द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस ऑफ एआई इज अनप्रिडिक्टेबल नहीं हम कह रहे हैं कि अनप्रिडिक्टेबल का कुछ भी नहीं है एक चैलेंज है तो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस तो हम हटा ही देंगे now fears are misplaced too generic of a sentence overstate कर रहा है किसी चीज को so will eliminate hence A is the answer. The surge in behavioral economics has challenged the assumption of perfectly rational actor. Yet critics argue that cataloging biases does not amount to a unified theory of decision making. After all, knowing that humans are prone to overconfidence or loss aversion is descriptive. What remains elusive is a predictive framework that can anticipate behavior across various contexts. Now, what behavioral economics needs, therefore, is not anomalies but a deeper integration with psychology and neuroscience to yield explanatory power. थोड़ा बहुत मैच कर रहा है बिकॉज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस और ये कह रहा है कि अब द फर्स्ट सेंटेंस उसका ये कह रहा है कि देयरफॉर वी नीड दिस ये नहीं है तो ये हो सकता है विल होल्ड ऑन टू द बी Hence, unlike classical economics, behavioral economics may forever remain an applied toolkit rather than a core theoretical discipline. Again, to evaluate, debate हो रहा है बहुत ज्यादा like extreme पे जा रहा है ये. This suggests that the future of economic lies in computational models that can simulate decision making rather than behavioral catalogs. नया direction दे रहा है, change in scope. Consequently, behavioral economics might best be viewed as a supplement rather than substitute. Again, overstating something. Again, बहुत ज्यादा ही generic हो गया कि हम कुछ कह रहे हैं, discussing something, or giving a very, very, very broad conclusion. So, A is the answer. Now, urban planners often celebrate density as a cure for congestion, pollution, and sprawl, but the equation is not so simple. Density about infrastructure merely breeds crowding. Megacities like Lagos or Mumbai illustrate how extreme density can coexist with crumbling transport, strained water systems, and an informal settlements. Which of the following completes this? This indicates that policy should discourage uncontrolled migration to larger city. ये तो है ही नहीं, ये तो बोल ही नहीं रहे हम लोग, right? Therefore, the success of cities like Tokyo must be understood as exception. Again, कुछ और ही कह रहे हैं. We are not talking about that. ये एग्जाम्पल कुछ और कह रहा है वो सब हटा दो शिफ्ट मत करो फोकस को इन फैक्ट सम सिटीज आर्ग्यू दैट डेंसिटी इटसेल्फ इज अ प्रॉब्लम एंड एडवोकेट्स स्मॉलर डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड अर्बन मॉडल नया आर्गुमेंट लेके आ रहे हैं डोंट डू दैट thus density is desirable only when matched by proportionate investment in public goods right and urban design E is the answer. That's it for today. Please do check out the course. You can log into the prepbe.com website and you can check out the courses that we have. And you can also check out the free YouTube videos that are even available for QA and RBI. We'll continue with the series and new series will be launched very soon. Thank you.